I'm Michelle,
And I'm Catherine,
and we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast.
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down. We had a little bit of some feedback from our third episode. And I went back and listened to our third episode, and it marries very well with what we're talking about today. And the feedback was more along the lines of the fact that we were not giving a formula or step by step of how to accomplish what we were talking about in the setting your mind, waking up in the morning and having a mindset that was going to set the RAS to chase after what we wanted it to
Work for you, right?
And we didn't give a formula, and that was I thought this feedback couldn't have come at a better time.
I know.
Because of what we're going to be
We are actually
recording
jumping
today.
off into what's the formula or what's it look like. So to our listeners, I want to make sure that they understand that anything we're talking about, you and I do not believe that it's a just go do this. It's a really easy switcheroo or it's just easy. This takes conscious effort. I mean, self-mastery is something I think we're working at our whole life and putting a little bit of effort into it. And we've broken it down into several areas that you can pay attention to, but you're kind of doing small changes for big results over time. That feedback did come. We thought it was great because we're jumping off with daily self-parenting. And I've heard different people question why I name this particular portion of the wheel daily self-parenting. And just for our listeners who might be watching, when we talk about the wheel, this is what we're talking about. This diagram, our visual aid is the wheel. And this is kind of what I've been working from for most of my career in just an organized fashion. And for our listeners, whether you're watching or listening, you can go to our website, foxygenconsulting.com, and you can get a PDF of the wheel if you'd like to just have it or to see what we're talking about. But specifically today, we're talking about daily self-parenting, and it's one of the spokes on the wheel. And I have heard the feedback of, I don't like daily self-parenting because maybe it sounds condescending. I mean, what do you think? What are the reasons why you think people don't like it?
I was one of the ones that questioned this. Why are we using that terminology?
I wasn't going to out you.
No, it's fine. Why are we using this particular terminology? And one of the things I realized is the whole parenting question was, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Can we keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Why you don't like it?
One of the things that I would say is sometimes you interpret me questioning, saying, I don't like it. It's more of, I want to chew it apart and see if that's the best way to say it and put it back together again.
Yeah.
That is a common denominator for me. And I really questioned calling it parenting. And ever since then, realized this is actually a quite common terminology for this type of behavior.
Okay.
And so I'm on board with it because it does seem to be quite.
But you weren't the
comment
only
with it.
one. I mean, you really weren't. You're just the one which that's a gift that you have, but we'll move on. You and others have thought, I think my impression is it's condescending. Why do we need self-parenting? Whatever. And for me, it was important to make a very clear distinction because we hear a lot about self-care.
Oh,
And
right.
Oftentimes people equate self-care to what I would call self-indulgences. Nothing wrong with self-indulgences. But when we're hearing self-care and we're thinking it's a bubble bath or it's the mommy wine time or it's the, third piece of chocolate cake because I deserve that is, I need that to be a distinction of this is not what we're talking about. Daily self-parenting is adopting for ourselves the role of regulator, moderator, scheduler, nurturer, so that we can create space for life enrichments. That's my definition. Being for ourselves what good parenting is for children. And as children, we grow, you can't wait to grow up so you don't get told when to go to bed, what to eat, what to do, how to do, we can't, I just remember that, we all do as kids. I can't wait. And then somewhere in adulthood, you're like, oh, if somebody would just tell me, don't do this. You need to do more of this. We feel like that would make us better. But the reality is we have to become that for ourselves, because really even somebody else I used to think if I had somebody to tell me you can't spend more than this much on any given day, or you can't eat. I used to think if I had somebody telling me, and I just know myself that I would maybe take that for about 3 days. And then I'd be like, nope. We have to learn, we have to want to be that for ourselves. So we have to learn to adopt that role and see it as us nurturing. That was one of the reasons why I put nurturer in there, is because parents are doing it not to be obtuse or intrusive to their children. They're doing it because they want to nurture and care and grow them into something healthy. If we can do that for ourselves, I want to nurture myself and do this because I love myself. I want to care. This is how I care for my body, my brain, my relationships, nurturing ourselves in a way, loving ourselves in the way that we all long to be loved.
So that's kind of the definition of what it is, what we're calling daily self-parenting. And how does it earn its place as one of the 8 spokes on the wheel?
So with daily self-parenting, first, we have to understand that it's paying attention to the basics. So for me, I call the basics sunlight, sleep, exercise, hydration, nutrition, and healthy socialization. Those are just basics. If you're listening, get a pen and paper out, because I have these on a Post-it note on my desk, and I have it also on a mirror on the mirror in my bathroom, because there's a lot that comes in at us all the time that I can forget. We all know this. We can kind of forget to pay attention to just one of the basics. Like, how many times have you thought, geez, in 3 days, how much water have I actually drank? Or I've been going to bed really late for about 6 days in a row. Like, we'll have those thoughts. We don't mean to. It's not intentional, but that's a basic. And I think we walk around thinking we got the basics, but we don't. And so for me, I'm like, I need to have a picture, or I need a list, just so I'm kind of always, it's running on the forefront, not the back side.
So tying in, is it all right if I interrupt you? Tying into thinking about the question we had about our 3rd episode and what happens when the buzzer goes off and you have to put your feet on the ground and start running. And when you feel like you are running flat out all day long, sometimes these have a tendency to be put on the back burner.
That's right.
I don't have the opportunity to get sunlight every day. I don't have the opportunity to have proper exercise, or I had to grab just food really quickly. And one of the principles of the wheel is that all 8 need to be functioning healthily to have a smooth ride. And sometimes when you realize the ride isn't smooth, you go figure out which one's deficient.
That's right.
And we can always compromise on any of these for a given amount of time. Mm-hmm. And it may be that you're in a space where you know that these are a priority, but you don't have the time to get the sunlight, or you don't have the time. You have to get the quick and easy meal, or you're going to be sleep deprived. So let's talk about where this comes in to play for us becoming conscientious of it?
So I love, this is really good. This is where the conversation gets really good, because you're describing life, and because we're human and because we've been designed that there is a lot of give, but at some point we hit capacity, or we need to pay attention before we overflow our capacity and we lose it and things start spinning out of control. And we don't have the luxury to live very, are there people out there who live very strict, they micromanage their own life? Yes. And probably because that's how they've learned they have to function. In general, though, that's not your general population. Even for type A personalities, or even for people who are organized and focused, it's just not possible to micromanage our whole life. And so understanding that all of us do not have the luxury. We see other people, I know people who go to CrossFit gym, or they go to a gym and they spend 2 hours a day. And in my mind, I'm thinking, where would I put 2 hours a day? I remember years ago, Oprah did a show, and she did it with her trainer that, remember when she did her first marathon? And I don't know if you remember, I mean, this is a long time ago, but they were talking, and I remember they talked about this in particular, and he just said, you have to just make time for it. And so Oprah gets up at 4 a.m. to make this work for her schedule, because he said, I don't know anybody busier than Oprah, which really. But I remember at the time kind of feeling angry at that, thinking, I need sleep. But you know what? That wasn't for me. I had small children at the time. You don't take 2 extra hours away from a mother who's already getting up multiple times during the night. And so that wasn't for me. But you have to be able to look at your life and say, what is really important of the basics? There are times where sometimes you can't do all the basics, like you were saying. But what is it that you need most? Find a way. So it might mean getting up a little bit earlier so that you can do 30 minutes of exercise, or maybe it means putting 10 minutes of exercise in your day, or it's adding water. I think water and hydration is probably the easiest for all of us to incorporate, just being more conscious of it. But whatever you consider your basics. For me, I didn't put it on here because it's not a need for everybody, but for me, I need a little bit of quiet in the morning, or quiet before my day starts, because I'm an extrovert, but I can tend to get overstimulated by all the stuff all day long, because I'm interacting with people a lot, and then my children and the animals in our house and all that kind of stuff, that I realized for a while I need my day to kind of do this like slow lift. I can't run into it. Right? So that is a core basic. So that's on my list for me. So I think everybody has to figure out, what are your basics. Now, the ones I listed, I think are things your doctor would say, a therapist are going to say, hey, these are pretty much core for everybody, but you might have 1 or 2 or 3 things that you realize for you are your core basic needs.
So for your core basic need, did you just start getting up earlier, or...
Yes.
Did you assign someone else a responsibility in the morning because you have a big household trying to mobilize?
Yeah, but I also learn, so right now, I'm doing something in the morning where I'm getting up earlier, and I'm starting to really love it. I don't love that moment when my alarm goes off, but the next thought is, but we really like that moment. So it gets me up. And so I have started getting up before my household. Before that, I was telling myself, get them out the door, then I can have it. And so that also works for me too, because I know I'm going to get to come back to that and start my day. I kind of look at the chaos as starting their day. But yeah, I did. I had to you have to make adjustments. If it's important to your well-being, you're going to have to make adjustments. There's not really a luxury to this, in the sense of, I'm a well-kept woman or you're a well-kept person. Not many people are.
And I think that is a key factor to make note if you're running the wheel, which will come up with the later on when we describe or offer the appraisal. and you are running the wheel to see which one of the spokes needs to be focused on. If hydration, sunlight, proper nutrition is in your luxury category, that might be a, flag.
That's a flag. That's a yellow flag.
Yellow flag that says, okay, you should be able to do these things. What is it in your circumstances at the moment that's causing that to become a luxurious item? And that's when you are an adult parenting yourself and say, do I need to cut out the dopamine scrolling hits on social media? Do I need to maybe not watch every episode on Netflix? Or is it
at the time that it drops?
Or is it something else, like maybe it may be a bigger sacrifice. Like what we were talking about yesterday is adding things that are healthier to your routine. We can't create more hours in the day.
That's right.
Something has to be subtracted. And that's where it becomes the parenting of knowing what is actually better for your health for the long run and saying it's better for me to not necessarily stay in the comfy zone and to go do the harder thing or the more disciplined thing in our life, because that's going to benefit me in the longer run. And all of this ties together with the earlier podcast about like accountability. Where do we really want to be? And it starts with the first step. And what does that first step need to be? It may be going to bed earlier. Like, how many studies have been done on the effects of the blue lights that come from our phones and all of our tools, electronics that wake up the adrenal system. And it's the discipline of I heard a scientist one time talk about wearing yellow glasses to watch TV late at night so it doesn't stimulate, the color doesn't stimulate. And she said, well, my husband loves them. They're so attractive. But if we're going to watch TV after 8 o'clock at night, in order for me to go to bed at 10 so that I can get this sleep that I need, I have to put these yellow glasses on. So there are ways to accommodate, but we have to be honest that, this is why I can't fall asleep when I go to bed at 10 o'clock at night or turn off the TV at 10 o'clock at night. There's also never been a time in our society where we can actually pause and hold or go back and watch sports. We don't have to watch things in real time. I remember as a kid growing up, if I came home from school and was in the middle of watching some show, there was one after school show called 3-2-1 Countdown that I loved. It came on like 3:30 in the afternoon. And sometimes my mom would come in because of the day and say, it's got to be turned off because you need to do your homework now.
And you're never getting back to see that.
I will never know how that science experiment ever finished. There are episodes we will never know the end of.
Right. And but we don't live that way anymore.
We don't live that way anymore. So when you say to yourself, I actually do have control. I don't have to watch the end of it. What is within my measure of control? And it's moving yourself into a space of saying, what's really the healthiest for me?
It's getting past the I don't want to. It really is getting past the I don't want to. Just like with your children or a child, any adult, whether it's your child or just a child that you've interacted with, knows that the childlike behavior is, hey, I want you to do, A, B, or C, pick up your toys or go to bed or brush your teeth. They have almost an instantaneous, even if they're a good and they don't stomp it out, but there's this, I don't want to. There's a resistance to breaking from what we were doing to do what we need to do, what we should do. And it's on the wheel because I want there to be an awareness and a change in mindset of how to get past look, we don't want to. We don't want to. Or we want to keep doing the thing that's probably not best for us in that moment.
Or the dopamine hit.
That's right. And so if we can just get past the I don't want to and go do it, most of the time our brain follows suit. And doing that again and again and again until we start to change the brain from I don't want to to rewire. That's how rewiring changes. Then the brain starts putting together, oh, I feel better when I do that. Oh, I feel good. I'm actually motivated. I want to do this because, like my morning thing, that has happened. The first 2 weeks of that, I was hard. But now my brain is starting to really ignite into what I love about being up in the house, quiet, before the sun comes up, it's dark. The ritual of what I'm creating, my tea and a candle and all that kind of stuff. My brain is like, we like this. I like it. So I'm not resisting it anymore as much. I don't want to, it's a very small little quick voice that I quickly get past because the other wiring of my brain has said, we like it. And that's what happens. And when it's also on the wheel, because you kind of alluded to it, or you pinpointed it just a minute ago, is we start to make these things a luxury, and that's dangerous. And if, we're going to take this to work, why this is important at work, why should leaders of people, influencers of people be paying attention to this? Because if we're treating these things as a leader, a manager, a boss, an executive, people taking care of themselves as a luxury, or it's put, in your flex time, or however we like to phrase it, because the corporate world likes to rebrand things that should just be basic human needs. That makes you, in my opinion, a dangerous place to work. If you're making, for employee, I know I'm looking at your face.
Yeah. My face is saying
it's a dangerous place to work when they create an atmosphere that taking care of yourself with basic needs becomes a luxury.
Oh,
that makes you a dangerous place to work, because that's a place that doesn't have care for you as a human, as a whole-minded person. And we've been in places like that where we compliment people who work extra long hours.
Okay.
Or we award the people who have given up their vacation time. They get the award. We give accolades to people in the meeting who came in on a Saturday. Now, are there times for an occasional extra from a workplace? For sure. We're talking, but this becomes kind of the essence of a workplace when we don't honor them as human beings. They are coming in sick. Look, they come in sick. They don't use their sick days. That to me is that's a red flag for, is this a good place to work? I question that a lot of times when I'm seeing those types of things in the workplace, because if you are a good influencer, leader of people, you're going to want them to take care of yourself, because the more they're taking care of themselves and paying attention to the basics and not seeing it as a reward or an indulgence, then that means that you care for them as a whole person. They're also going to then understand that and feel that and give you better and give you more of themselves as a worker.
I feel like a lot of companies, though, know that these basics are important and that it makes a healthier employee. And so they'll have water coolers, water available, water bottles available. They'll have branded tumblers, so to encourage people to drink more water and also be sustainable and not wasting plastic. And they've been more conscientious about bringing in natural light into office buildings, or saying take a break or take a walk. It's I think on one hand, our society has said this needs to be part of the workplace because we know this is harmful.
Vital, right?
And I think there is chatter maybe about this, saying this, but when you have a system that values opposite behavior, here's a story for me. I had a lovely conversation about time management, and it's so funny because this is come back up in my life about my time management, because I would rather sit and have a conversation with a person and then work later, because I value relationships and conversations and building connections in the office place. but at the expense of necessarily getting my work done. Not for a project deadline, but I would stay till 7:00 in the office and get things done, but feel very satisfied about my day because
You were connecting with people.
I was connecting with people.
Right.
And I have the luxury of not having a family at home that I have to rush home and take care of. So
Right.
I can stay later. And there was a point where in 2 weeks span, multiple people in the C-suite gave me priorities to do. And I had a colleague turn to me and say in a meeting, not every one of these tasks can Catherine have as her top priority. You cannot have that many top priorities.
Right.
And there was a time scheduling situation going on for me of how to prioritize what needs to happen. And I realized that visually, the C-suite did not know what was all being asked of me to prioritize. Because they would say it to me, give it to me, and then not think about it again. So I had a whiteboard in my office that I began to put on the whiteboard all of what the things were that were considered top priorities. So they would be able to visually see what was being asked and how it is not a possibility. And there is a point of conscientiousness that leaders need to have to know, are we asking our employees to have a priority or to deliver that is going to make them have to come in on Saturdays? And for how long can that be kept up? Because even though I didn't have a family that was waiting for me to feed them at home, I didn't need to be at the office every night until 7:00.
That's right.
Or having to go home and work.
Or asking them to give up time with family or their gym time or
That's right.
I think that's a great analogy and a great story in that's my point of why this is really important for work and executives, or if you own your own company or managers, or if you are an influencer or leader of people, you have to be mindful of how you're doing in your own life first
and foremost, if you have got to be doing this yourself,
but be mindful and take a look as what is the environment that we're creating? Are we making this a priority? And you're right. There's lots of companies who are doing a great job of this. There's also lots of companies who look like they're doing a good job of this, because we've heard, yes, they do have the gym. They do have the walking trails. They do have the water coolers, but my boss micromanages me and expects me to work through my lunch because there's a lot on my plate and I need,
Or if they walk by my office and my chair's empty, they assume I'm not getting my work done.
That's right. So this is why I say we have to be conscientious of that in the workplace. So
sorry, not to cut you off, but if somebody wanted to do deeper dives,
yes,
we have a couple of book recommendations.
We do.
Why don't you tell us about the books?
So I've got two this week. These are my books that I'm recommending. The first one is Eat, Move, and Sleep. These are very some similar books, because Eat, Move, Sleep by Tom Rath is really about making small changes for big results. And honestly, most people, this one is very popular. The second one, Atomic Habits. I haven't met many people who haven't heard this book. It's very popular. Really the same thing, but he gets into a lot of, here's some specific tools and ways that you can do this. He shares it from his own life. So Atomic Habits by James Clear, Eat, Move, Sleep by Tom Rath. These are our books. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and hope you'll do a great job being parenting yourself.
Feel free to leave comments, because we really want to hear more feedback that we can work into sessions and into the episodes, if we aren't being clear about something particular as well.
The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is presented by Foxygen Consulting. At Foxygen, we provide business and performance psychology and consulting. We believe healthier people make a healthier workplace. Foxygen Consulting, breathing new life into your organization.